start. I was taken home by the police in first grade. First grade. It was not a good start in my life.
Hannity,
and I thought it was the coolest story ever.
Hannity, I short-sheeted my counselor's bed in summer camp, Camp Jewel, YMCA. I think I got kicked out the first week. It was bad.
Listen, I guarantee you, story for story, I have more trouble. I don't know. I was incorrigible.
Hannity, I had a 93-year-old paratrooper from D-Day on radio today. I was listening to you talk about D-Day.
Yeah.
He was in the 101st Airborne, and I think he lives out in San Diego, Mr. Geddes, Ray Geddes. And it was he talked about his watch broke when he landed, and he was a media guy. He was like a media guy, so he was like, I guess, filing reports, but he got shot at, and his watch stopped when they jumped out of the plane and they landed. It's at 1:30 in the morning. It broke. He still has the watch. He needed a watch when he landed, so he said, "Well, I had to take a watch. The only one I could get was a dead German guy. I took the watch, and I still have that watch too." He said, "It's like this is what you had to do."
I will tell you this: you think of these young men and what they did, and how many died and had permanent injuries for the rest of it.
8,000 that day.
And that's our military today, the best people on earth. Have a great show.
Thanks so much, Sean. And it is amazing to think about that. I get verklempt when I think of the sacrifices. Amazing. Good evening from Washington. I'm Laura Ingraham, and this is the Ingraham Angle. We have bombshell developments, exclusive interviews, a blockbuster show tonight for you, so stay right there. My one-on-one with Mitch McConnell on a possible McCabe immunity deal and whether Congress can solve DACA. Straight ahead. Victor Davis Hanson on the Obama administration desperate for an Iran nuke deal back then, that it lied to the American people or to the Senate? And Seen and Unseen with Raymond Arroyo on the simmering war between sports figures and the president. And an all-star lineup of Chaffetz, Bongino, Bolden, Fitton, and Weisenberg to discuss the big story of the hour, the unmasking of Jim Comey as an FBI director apparently gone rogue. The word insubordinate was used to describe former FBI director. In the upcoming DOJ Inspector General's report, a source telling ABC News. The IG report reviews the FBI and DOJ's handling of the Hillary Clinton email investigation. It will say that Comey defied authority on more than one occasion, according to the report. And perhaps most importantly, the IG is said to criticize Comey for failing to consult with then Attorney General Loretta Lynch before making an historic decision back in July 2016. Of course, the decision was not to prosecute Hillary Clinton for mishandling classified information. Now, that is the very reason President Trump cited for firing Comey, remember, back in May 2017, usurping the Attorney General's authority. The IG will also reportedly criticize Comey for ignoring DOJ objections when he announced the reopening of the Clinton email investigation in late October, right before the election in 2016. Now, the IG's revelations may force Comey's defenders to reconsider a man they once called a principled defender of the FBI and DOJ against the president.
I have to reciprocate what an honor it has been to serve with the likes of John Brennan and Jim Comey, who are dedicated public servants and have served this country long and well and with great integrity.
I do say about Director Comey that he came through, I think, with great authenticity and sincerity. He is not a political person.
The president himself sometimes makes accusations that turn out not to be true. And when it comes down to who's telling the truth and who's not, I think most people would side reasonably with James Comey.
Oh, Preet. Well, the IG report tells a different tale. And it will also apparently undercut Comey's self-referential preaching about leadership in his latest book.
It's about my hope that I can be part of facilitating a conversation about our values. I could be useful by offering people a vision of what ethical leadership looks like. It's designed to try and offer some framework for how leadership should be and must be.
Leadership. Well, the IG reportedly will also rebuke Lynch's mishandling of the Hillary Clinton email investigation. The report zeroing in on her meeting with Bill Clinton on a Phoenix tarmac back in June 27, 2016, just a week before Comey cleared Hillary in that email investigation.
That he wanted to come on the plane and say hello.
Did a part of you go, oh, no, turn him around?
You know, at first my thought was, you know, I speak to people all the time, people in public life, people not in public life.
Right, but his wife was under investigation
citizens.
by the Justice Department.
She says they made mostly small talk, nothing about Mr. Clinton's wife and her email server.
Chat about the grandkids, that kind of stuff. Well, the IG seems very skeptical of her account, though, and sources saying that the report will criticize both the tarmac meeting and its aftermath. Now, this whole miscarriage of justice has always stunk to high heaven to me, and now an objective authority is reportedly bringing the truth to light. So let's examine what all of this means, what we're learning, with former Whitewater Deputy Independent Counsel Saul Weisenberg, Democratic strategist Scott Bolden, and as former chair of that committee that had oversight over the DOJ's Inspector General, Jason Chaffetz. They should all know whether these sources leaking of the report are actually reliable. Gentlemen, you all made the all-star description, by the way, at the top of the show. We're all all-stars tonight.
Whether it's merited or not.
Exactly, why not? All right, Chaffetz, I got to go to you because this is wild now. I mean, first of all, I have to ask you, why this leak, this particular piece of information, and why now?
I remember the Inspector General, Mr. Horowitz, telling me a long time ago, he said at the end of the process when the report is written, I have to give it to the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General, and the FBI Director. Cooperating witnesses will get to see small sections, and when that happens, you're going to start to see leaks. It's inevitable, but only he has seen the final report, and obviously his staff. It means it's on the verge of happening. It's been 18 months in the making, and I don't think at the end of the day it's going to come out and say they did a really good job. I don't think that's what's going to happen.
Scott.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen either. The Democrats are going to be watching this as well, and lawyers as well, because what he did, what Comey did with the FBI, what Lynch did before that set this up, handcuffed the FBI and DOJ. So we're looking to see that too. The question, though, is that's in one bucket. Comey's legitimacy or his truthfulness in regard to his book and his interactions with Donald Trump are in a completely different bucket. But Comey puts Republicans and Democrats in very difficult positions based on what the issue is concerning Comey.
Why do you think Comey didn't tell Loretta Lynch about this July, very unusual, to say the least, a press conference about not indicting?
Oh, it was incredible. Let me tell you something. There's not one criminal prosecutor at the federal level that works at the FBI. They work at DOJ. He had to consult with DOJ. And with Lynch, why didn't she just recuse herself and let the deputy AG handle it? Because they could have kept control of it. There would be no need for Comey to become not only investigator, but prosecutor as well. That's a bad mix. Conflicts, what have you. But more importantly, we're here because of how he interpreted Loretta Lynch saying, I'm going to accept the FBI's recommendation. And then the FBI took it and ran beyond that. No consultation with DOJ, and that's just fundamentally wrong.
Saul Weisenberg, your reaction to this leak that he was insubordinate. I mean, maybe you've heard this word used to describe a high-ranking government official before, other than someone in the military. You don't really usually hear insubordinate. I mean, I was insubordinate. That's why I was a high school student. But I mean, insubordinate? What is that? Defying protocol, et cetera? Is this just disciplinary, or is this serious?
It's very serious. Insubordination is not a strong enough word. You asked the question, why didn't he go to Loretta Lynch? Or Scott asked the question. He makes it very clear in his book. He thought the Department of Justice was corrupted, and he thought that it would hurt the FBI. He thought their investigation, in some sense, was corrupt for 4 or 5 reasons that he mentions. And he says, I didn't want the FBI to be tainted or corrupted by that. I wanted people to know that the FBI had done an investigation and made its own decision about that. It was a horrendous thing for him to do. It violated every protocol on the face of the earth. It wasn't his job, but that's why he did it. He said President Obama's comments about Hillary Clinton's guilt or innocence were highly inappropriate. He said that Loretta Lynch, it was inappropriate for her to direct him to call it a matter and not an investigation. He thought it was inappropriate that the Department of Justice attorneys were not insisting on getting the emails from Clinton's attorneys. And he actually had to go to Sally Yates and say, I'm going to call for the appointment of a special counsel if my agents don't get these emails, and they got them a day or two later. So he laid out a number of reasons why he did it, but it still doesn't excuse why he did it. Here's the biggest thing he did that is inexcusable. Here's the biggest, most inexcusable thing that he did. He presided over an incompetent and corrupt investigation of Mrs. Clinton and did nothing about it. Here's a man that didn't hesitate to call for the appointment of a special counsel when he served in a Republican administration. Here, in a case that screamed out for a special counsel, he sat silent.
I want to go to Jason here. Jason, from the struck page texts that are trickling out, there's an interesting one, and it's from, I think, July 5th of 2016, and it involves you, Jason. Strzok says, God, Comey is so good. This is after his testimony on Capitol Hill before your committee. Page, I know, brilliant public speaker and brilliant distillation of facts. Strzok, yep. Chaffetz is in over his head. Page, I was about to say the same thing. And Chaffetz is trying to be so measured, but it's so phony. Now, talk about utter disdain for the other branch of government that is supposed to be exercising its own constitutional oversight, which is why we have the separation of powers, why our framers set up our government as it did. And, you know, the lovebirds, I guess, never thought anyone would see those particular texts. Jason.
No, look, the deep state never likes exposure. They don't like to be held accountable. They don't like somebody asking tough questions. What goes on in those texts, though, is, I believe, a conspiracy to actually withhold documents from Congress. Remember, I issued a subpoena for those materials, a duly issued subpoena, and they were talking back and forth about how they're just not going to provide them. And you can't do that. When you are conspiring, working together, remember, not only are they lovers, but they both work for the FBI, and they're discussing how they're going to withhold documents from Congress, a battle that we're still fighting this day. And I think if a judge or jury saw that, you would be very crystal clear that the only reason they're holding them back is because they didn't like Jason Chaffetz and Trey Gowdy and other people asking them hard questions.
Yeah, hold on. Speaking, we got to get to the McCabe issue, because obviously now he's requesting immunity for his testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee. We have a clip from Special Report. Everybody watch.
Did you know that Andrew McCabe, your deputy, had sat on that revelation about the emails?
Yeah, I don't know that. I don't know that to be the case. I do know that New York and FBI headquarters became aware that there may be some connection between Weiner's laptop and the Clinton investigation weeks before it was brought to me for decision. And as I write in the book, I don't know whether they could have moved faster and why the delay.
Scott.
Yeah, the fact that the documents were delayed, that's a real problem. But what the real issue is, was it necessary for him in October of 2016 to announce or to write essentially a public document as to whether they were going to open up the investigation or not? If they had the documents that long, if they were copies, that's a pretty efficient review. And I got to tell you, diligence and other mechanisms, you can go through some documents pretty quick to see whether they're copies or not. We do it in litigation all the time. I'm not so sure he had to announce that publicly to protect himself or the FBI. He could have gone through that. And remember, we're talking about a month before the election, which DOJ guidelines say you're not supposed to do anything that could influence an election. And he knew when he wrote that letter there was going to be some influence, despite the fact that he pulled it back or he said that there were just copies later.
Saul, we talked about this on radio, but it's not surprising at all, is it, that McCabe wants immunity? He wants use immunity for any further testimony on Capitol Hill. The guy's under criminal investigation. That's what any good lawyer would ask for immunity.
Absolutely, Laura. People in hell want ice water. He's not going to get immunity unless somebody in the Congress is incredibly incompetent. If he gets congressional immunity, it will put in grave doubt any future prosecution of him. So that would be a real dereliction of duty. When Congress gave immunity to Poindexter and North, their convictions were overturned. it becomes extremely difficult because of the criminal procedure rules that you're familiar with to successfully prosecute anyone who gets immunized and then goes and testifies in front of Congress.
I don't know that I agree with that. I think I think they need to actually hear what he's going to testify about. And remember, the government is already, the Inspector General is already recommending prosecution for McCabe lying previously. But I think Grassley is doing it the right way. Let's hear what he thinks he's going to actually say and not do what the FBI and the Department of Justice did, and that is hand out immunity. Remember, they gave out 5 sets of immunity and got nothing for it during the Clinton investigation. I think Grassley should hear him out and toy with him a little bit, play with him a little bit, and see what he has to say.
One more thing, guys. Hold on. I want to play something for you before we go. April of this year, we have Comey on with Stephanopoulos, and he's asked specifically about the chain of command and sending that letter right before the election. It's a full screen. I'm sorry. Here's the full screen. He says, in an interview, Stephanopoulos, he was asked, if Attorney General Lynch had ordered you not to send the letter, would you have sent it? Comey says, no. I believe in the chain of command. I'm sorry. I think, given what we found out and given what the IG said, any 3 gentlemen want to respond to that? He believes in the chain of command.
It's moot at this point, if you ask me, because we know he sent the letter and he didn't ask, and he should have let DOJ handle it.
No, but he didn't believe the chain of command in July of 2016 either. I mean, he didn't believe in that. I mean, I think
it was issue-driven.
Yeah.
Depending on the issue, he believed in chain of command.
Yeah. Whether it was good for him, he believed in chain of command. Everybody, fantastic panel, as always, and you're always all-stars in my heart. Hey, everybody, do you remember this one?
I think he's morally unfit to be president.
Well, up next, Tom Fitton, Dan Bongino on Comey's own moral fitness after what we learned today. Don't go away. Do you remember how we were told time and again that it was President Trump damaging the integrity of our cherished institutions?
Is the president threatening the long-standing independence of the Justice Department?
The latest really episode in the president's long-term campaign to undermine the Russia investigation, the Department of Justice, et cetera, the FBI.
Look, the Justice Department is under a shelling from the White House. It's like London 1941 there.
A full-throated assault on the rule of law, undermining the Department of Justice, undermining the FBI in ways that are just shocking.
Shocking. Well, now the shoe is squarely on the other foot. Think about what we've just learned in the past 48 hours. McCabe, the former deputy FBI director, has asked for congressional immunity for any further congressional testimony. According to ABC News, the DOJ Inspector General report finds that Comey was insubordinate and criticizes his handling of the Clinton email investigation. The report also casts serious doubt on the former Attorney General Loretta Lynch's role in that same investigation, particularly her tarmac meeting with Bill Clinton. Let's discuss these amazing new falls from grace with former Secret Service agent Dan Bongino of NRA TV, president of Judicial Watch Tom Fitton, and Jeff Beatty, who served in the FBI and CIA. Let's start with you, Tom. It is quite something to hear that litany of sound bites with the grand exaggeration from, it's like the bombing of London in 1940. Come on. I mean, what we've seen in this Inspector General report, just the little dribs and drabs we've seen so far, is an FBI that was mishandling this investigation, not consulting with superiors, and apparently just defying internal protocol and how they handle these matters.
Yeah, President Trump inherited a terribly corrupt leadership at the FBI, and he cleaned house by firing Comey. This IG report confirms, essentially, it looks like, that he did the right thing. Ironically, Mr. Rosenstein came to the same conclusion in excoriating Mr. Comey's handling of the Clinton email investigation. Not so much the sham investigation itself, but the fact is that it was a sham investigation, and rather than confront it directly, he attacked Hillary Clinton to distract from the fact that he was protecting her. What a despicable act by him, and the IG tore him apart.
Dan, let's go to you. You've been extremely passionate on this issue from the very beginning. What are these developments that we've learned today? And again, these are just the initial leaks that we've heard. This IG report seems to be delayed and delayed and delayed. A lot of comment from people, I guess, who were mentioned, and Democrats and Republicans able to comment. Perhaps it'll be changed. But your initial reaction of what we're hearing?
Well, it looks like Jim Comey is going to be exposed for the holier-than-thou phony that he was, Laura. Listen, he hid this investigation from Congress for 8 months. Now, just so everybody's clear on this, there is a protocol for quarterly briefings to Congress about sensitive investigations. Comey even acknowledges that in a hearing up on the Hill. And then they ask him quarterly, every 3 months. This isn't difficult for anybody to understand. He hides it for 8 months. They ask him, Representative Elise Stefanik, Mr. Comey, why did you hide the investigation from Congress for 8 months? You're never going to believe this. You know what he says? Because it was sensitive. After acknowledging that they brief Congress every 3 months because of sensitive investigations. Of course, I'm talking about the investigation of Donald Trump. Comey is being exposed here. This was really horrendous leadership, and I really hope this IG report gets the truth out there.
Jeff, your former experience at FBI, CIA, the rank and file agents at the FBI, they don't make a ton of money. They work really hard. A lot of them put their lives in danger every day. What do they think? I mean, it's kind of a generic catch-all question, but I always try to put myself in their shoes. What are they thinking when they see this circus around this Hillary email investigation and then the supposed collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign? That seems totally non-existent, with informants moving in and out of London and dates not matching up. What do you think is going through their minds?
Well, they have to be disappointed. Comey, I don't believe he ever was an FBI agent. He's been an attorney, and he's had some appointed jobs. So he's not really come up through the ranks. Contrast that to somebody like over at CIA, Gina Haspel, who's came up through the ranks. But, one of the underlying things here that people are asking that I talk to is, where are the whistleblowers? Where are the rank and file whistleblowers here? And, one of the reasons why there are not rank and file whistleblowers coming forward is there's a pay system in the FBI. You alluded to the fact that they don't get the best base pay, but there is a system that rewards them with an additional 25% of their base pay. It used to be called administratively uncontrollable overtime, and then it became LEAP, Law Enforcement Availability Pay. And what it boils down to is FBI agents have to certify and supervisors have to certify that additional time has been worked, basically 50-hour weeks or more. Sometimes these corners are cut. A great book is out there called Fraud Fighters, written by a guy named Wells, who was a former FBI agent. He talks about actual fraud that was conducted, and then supervisors certify that, yeah, this time was worked. And that puts people in a position.
This is all getting too much in the weeds for me, Jeff, but you're saying they're not whistleblowers because they're afraid they're going to get dock pay? I mean, Tom,
remember, they had to sign these extra non-disclosure agreements. They already were committed to not disclosing information about these investigations, and they put the fear of God into them by forcing them to sign these extraordinary non-disclosure agreements. Look, I think the most important thing about this IG leak is that it undermines the Mueller investigation into the alleged obstruction of justice, supposedly, that Trump committed in firing Comey. It shows that Trump was very much in
should have fired him day one. He should have been gone day one. He was a disaster. He should never have been kept on. That was that's like one of the few things I think Trump could have done differently.
This was the
first month.
The most significant anti-corruption act by a president in recent memory, getting rid of James Comey. And it's being confirmed by the IG. What is Mueller investigating now? The firing of a corrupt government official?
Dan Bongino, why is Rod Rosenstein still supervising Mueller when he is going to be a witness? He is a witness, having signed one of those FISA warrants that did not reveal that Hillary and her campaign paid for that Steele dossier. I mean, Lindsey Graham's been all over this, and apparently he said, if deemed appropriate, I will recuse myself. My goodness, he shouldn't be supervising Mueller.
Laura, not only that, not only did Rosenstein sign one of the FISA warrants to spy on members of the Trump team, he's a material witness in the firing of Jim Comey, which the Democrats have alleged was the greatest sin of the Trump presidency, despite Comey's obvious incompetence. Rosenstein's a twofer. He's implicated in Spygate, and he's implicated in the special counsel because he's the one who writes the memo about the firing of Comey. How he is still acting as the deputy AG is one of the great mysteries of my 43 years on this planet.
I mean, he was a bad appointment by Jeff Sessions. You're the deputy in these departments. I worked at the Transportation Department, Education Department, and in the White House in the last couple of years of the Reagan administration. And the deputy position and the undersecretary positions are so important. If you have bad people or people like wet themselves the first time there's controversy, you're going to be in big trouble, especially at the Justice Department. Guys, I want all of you, Jeff, I want you to react to Paul Ryan today in his weekly press conference seemed to jump on the Trey Gowdy bandwagon when asked about Spygate. Let's watch.
Right before the recess, you sat in a briefing with Trey Gowdy, who came out afterwards and said that he's more convinced the FBI did exactly what my fellow citizens would want them to do. Do you agree with
a lot of months that are missing? Jeff, no spy, I guess we can call it informant, mole, or a lure. What's your reaction to that?
Well, my reaction is that this has always been two different approaches. When the Democratic apparatus was attempted to be penetrated by people outside this country, the FBI went to them and warned them and said, hey, let's work together to make sure that doesn't happen on your servers. That is not the way they handled the Republican side of the coin. They instead decided to go ahead and call it entrapment if you want, run an operation in there, but they sure didn't go into them as American citizens and saying, hey, listen, we have some foreign entities trying to penetrate this and trying to corrupt the process. They handled them differently than they did the Democrats, and there's just no excuse for that.
Yeah, so much for the defensive briefings. Guys, thanks so much. And the Eagles, by the way, trying to deal with being the first Super Bowl champs ever disinvited to the White House. And despite the hopes of some media, Melania is back, seen and unseen, with Arroyo next. Really behind the big cultural stories of the day. On the day after the Philadelphia Eagles would have celebrated their Super Bowl win at the White House, the team coach held the press conference. But what he didn't address was as newsworthy as what he did. Fox News contributor, New York Times bestselling author Raymond Arroyo here to explain. Raymond, this has been wild.
Oh, boy. Well, the Eagles won the Super Bowl, obviously. The White House wanted to commend them, have an honor for them. But the White House felt the rug was pulled out from under them. 80 players said, we will attend. And at the last minute, they said 2 players will attend and a mascot.
And the coach.
And the coach. Well, the White House said, no, we're not doing this. Now, Coach Peterson is trying to explain of the Eagles. Watch this.
Our organization, and I was looking forward to going down and being recognized as world champions. And, it is what it is. I'm not discussing it. It's over.
Well, then Coach Peterson should ask his own.
Is it Pedersen?
Peterson. Jeffrey Lurie, who's the owner of the team. He was the guy who was recorded in that private NFL owners meeting trashing Trump. He's obviously got a political bias.
Peterson is. I think he's a good guy.
Well, he wanted to be there.
He wanted to be there, and that was genuine. I watched that whole press conference, but he's sick of this. He just wants to play the game.
The organization has explaining to do. Why did they pull this fast one on the White House?
And by the way, the Secret Service has better things to do than do background checks on 80 people.
Who then disappear.
Who then, suddenly what they have to do their hair? I mean, what's the problem? They got manicures, they couldn't make it?
Now Stephen Kerr, who's the Golden Warriors coach, he's weighing in.
I'm over him, too. Let's listen. Golden State.
I'm blown away by the irony of the Eagles being disinvited, and instead we just have these military sing-alongs at the White House to show how patriotic we are, even though we don't know the words. It's just incredible.
Who asked him to weigh in? I haven't heard that much doublespeak since Joy Reid tried to explain those blog entries. But here's the problem with this. It's personalizing your political appetites, projecting it onto the White House. If the White House wants to honor you, they're doing that on behalf of the American people. This isn't personal, and it's not even about Trump. Now, the president
what's wrong with the military? Let me just say, what is wrong with the military sing-along? Okay, sometimes we miss certain words to certain songs, myself included.
I do that at church every week.
Sometimes the Mass. I'm dropping words left and right. But I mean, this is all snarky stuff. We got to move on.
The president had this celebration, and 2 guys decided to kneel. They had video of 2 guys kneeling in protest.
Okay, can we see the video of the kneeler?
During the celebration at the White House.
Look at that one.
Now, you see, I don't think they're actually kneeling.
Oh, there he is, the white shirt.
I think his knee gave out from the tonnage it's holding. He's a big guy. Look at that.
Whoa. Okay. Yeah, that's in blue. He's blue as MCL there. That's what ACL. All right, now we got Melania. She came back today.
Our national suspense has ended. She appeared at a FEMA event. This is after weeks of speculation. 26 days she was out of the public eye. But nasty people like David Frum and others were suggesting she was abused. She was knocked around.
He was making.
And that's why
he
she
thought.
was out
I think he was trying to say. I don't know if he was. Was he really?
He said, "Imagine if the president punched."
He
her,
was saying the hypothetical, but I don't think you can say that.
It
You
was
don't
a
want to
nasty
say that. That was not.
The president saluted the first lady at her first public event today.
She went through a little rough patch, but she's doing great, and we're very proud of her. She's done a fantastic job as First Lady. The people love you. People of our country love you. So thank you, honey.
Now we know where in the world Melania has been. She had a kidney operation. It takes time to recover. And, you know, they can ask the questions, but you have to accept the answers, too.
Well, some of these people in the press, some of these people in the media take more time off when they, get Botox injections, for goodness sakes. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that.
Well, I haven't had any, so I didn't take any time off. But,
I haven't had any in a while.
But to put missing person signs around town, I mean,
by the way, she looked fantastic. I love the out of Africa kind of thing she had on. I loved it. I think she looks great. I don't even want to appear next to her. She's so beautiful.
Oh, there's the missing person
missing.
all over the east side.
Well, she's not missing you. That's all I can say. All right.
And then there was an FBI. I got to show you this video. This is an FBI agent in Colorado. He's doing the backflip, and watch
party.
what happens. He's at a party,
well, having fun.
It's a distillery.
Tight khakis there.
Yeah, but it's a distillery. He's on AstroTurf. He flips. His gun falls out. Boom.
Whoopsie.
He shoots an onlooker and just puts the gun away and shrugs and kind of goes back to his beer. These are the same people. This is a cautionary tale. People are telling us,
don't carry a gun and do a backflip.
Well, they're saying
that's a cautionary tale.
People are saying only military and armed legal enforcers should have guns. Maybe not. Sometimes civilians do better with firearms.
That's a grown man doing a backflip, isn't that's a little
an FBI
stupid.
grown
Let me just say he's just stupid. That's
okay. I have some sad report.
Okay, very sad.
Something sad to report.
Raymond has to be on a single camera shot.
98-year-old Jerry Marin is the last of the Munchkins from The Wizard of Oz. There he is. He was a member of the Lollipop Guild who presented Dorothy with the lollipop. I know you love this movie, and Laura, thank you for doing the medley for us.
We represent the Lollipop Guild, the Lollipop Guild, the Lollipop Guild, and in the name of the Lollipop Guild, we wish to welcome you to Munchkin Land.
We're out of time, but the Munchkins were paid less than Toto on a weekly basis. Toto made, I think, $100. The Munchkins made $35 a week.
Awful.
That was scale back then.
He is the last of the 124 Munchkins, and he's now left us.
Great, one of the greatest movies of all time.
Iconic film.
Oh, that's
great. Now you have.
I can't go to. How do I go to Mitch McConnell after this? I'm depressed. We got to go. Mitch McConnell up next, trying to get Congress to do its job, canceling the August recess. What will Congress do without its long vacation? Wouldn't you like to have 4 weeks off? Mitch McConnell next. Oh, this is such great news. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell boldly canceled most of the August recess. He wants Congress to do something that's really amazing. It's called work. Pass the president's agenda, confirm long-stalled nominations. It's about time. I spoke with him about those issues and a lot more in this exclusive interview a short while ago. Senator, thanks so much for joining us.
Laura, good to see you.
So the big August recess, tell me about it. Chuck Schumer today said he's fine with it as long as you set aside a good amount of time for health care votes. What's going to happen?
Well, we're going to be here confirming the president's nominees. We've had to file cloture, that is, to speed the process up 101 times during President Trump's administration to try to speed up the confirmation of his appointments. That's happened only 24 times in the first 2 years over the last 6 presidents. So they've been slow walking his effort to not only staff up his administration, but they've made it more difficult to confirm judges as well. Even though we win them all in the end, they're taking a lot of time. So I'm going to give them plenty of time.
Chuck Schumer also said after the primary votes yesterday that Democrats have a good chance of taking the Senate. Your reaction to that?
Well, I think it's going to be very competitive. I mean, if you look at the history of off-year elections 2 years into any new president, Bill Clinton lost the House and Senate, Obama lost the House and almost lost the Senate. Yeah, I think it's going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight all the way to the finish, but we're optimistic we can hold the Senate, still have a majority, and still confirm the president's appointments. I mean, it's important to remember the Senate's in the personnel business. The House is not. If we lose the Senate, the president will be kneecapped for the last 2 years of his term on judicial appointments, on appointments to the cabinet, boards and commissions, and all of that. I think the American people need to understand the consequences for this administration if we were to lose the Senate.
Optimistic about the economy in the future?
Yeah, I mean, the economy is roaring. Lowest unemployment in decades. People are optimistic. Jobs are being created. Much of this attributable to the tax relief bill that we passed last December. So it's a pretty great time to be an American looking for work.
Why would people want to vote against their own pocketbooks then and vote for Democrats in November? I mean, you guys should be sitting pretty here.
That's certainly our argument, and I sure hope they share our view that this is not an environment that cries out for change.
Some big Republican donors have said that unless Congress passes a DACA amnesty, they're not going to give a penny. This guy, Mike Fernandez, big donor in Florida, big billionaire. Others have as well, WeatherTech CEO. Any possibility of an immigration reform initiative getting passed, House, then Senate?
Well, I don't know about in the House, but in the Senate, it's not on our agenda. I went to immigration early this year, wide open for amendments. The Senate did not want to pass any particular version of it. Honestly, Laura, I can't see us going back to immigration this year unless there was some proposal that the president actually was okay with and said he was willing to sign. And I don't think he's okay with anything that I've seen coming our way. So short answer, not on the agenda in the Senate.
Bob Corker and a few other senators have expressed their dismay over the president's tariffs and wanted to attach an amendment to the defense policy bill that's kind of a must-pass bill. President won on kind of this robust economic nationalist platform. Is it a good idea for the Senate to take on the president on the issue of tariffs?
I don't think so. Frankly, I'm not thrilled about the tariff path that we seem to be on, but we're not going to be in the Senate passing a bill preventing the president from what he can legally do under current law.
Well, Corker says for national security grounds, if he cites that, then the Senate should be able to say, I have it say.
We're not going to be passing that in the Senate.
The IG report that has been delayed and is going to be coming out has now leaked parts of it, saying that Jim Comey, the former FBI director, was insubordinate, and also words like defied authority in the way that he handled his job in the Hillary email investigation, specifically at the end when he notified Congress that they were reopening the investigation. Also cited Loretta Lynch in a reprimand. Not more details other than that. But any thoughts on that, given
Well, we're anxious to see what his recommendation is going to be. We've heard that he's a straight shooter. We know he's conducting this investigation. I've not heard about the particular leaks. But we'd like to see his report, and I assume it will come out sometime soon.
Meanwhile, the deputy director of the FBI, Andrew McCabe's lawyer, is asking for immunity before he's going to testify before the Senate committee headed by Chuck Grassley. Your thoughts on that?
Well, it's certainly interesting. I mean, you can imply what you choose to imply from that sort of thing. You're a lawyer. I think it's a pretty interesting request on their part.
Well, a lot of people have been saying that Donald Trump's besmirching the FBI and calling the FBI into question, and how dare he question the FBI. And look, we all love the FBI, but this is now the director of the FBI and the deputy director. Yeah. These two developments.
Well, I think all of these things will come out sooner or later. The IG report is something we think is going to be quite interesting, and we're anxious to receive it.
The big question for all of us court watchers is, of course, the Supreme Court. The big 5-4 decision came out regarding religious liberty, Anthony Kennedy in the majority, the bakery case this week. If Anthony Kennedy does step down and retire at the end of this term, when will the Supreme Court hearings, in your estimation, be held, given the tight schedule that we already have?
Well, the Congress meets until December 31st this year. If we get a vacancy sometime in the next month or two, we'll certainly deal with it this year.
Well, could it be held before the new court term begins?
It'll certainly be held this year. If there's a vacancy, in the next month or two, we have plenty of time to do the confirmation.
Any sense that the court, the president has narrowed down the candidates to one or two people and that they're ready to go here?
I can't imagine they're not thinking about this. I believe they are. And if a vacancy would occur, my assumption is we get a nomination rather quickly, and I guarantee you we deal with it. It's not just the Supreme Court, however. You've been following. We now have confirmed 21 circuit court judges in the first year and a half of the Trump administration, breaking all modern records. One-eighth of the circuit judges in America have been appointed by Donald Trump and confirmed by this Republican Senate in a year and a half.
You have 8 that are still waiting to get out of committee, 2 on the floor of the Senate.
They'll all be done this year.
And will you hope to get them done during the August recess or through the August recess?
They'll all be done this year.
Finally, Senator, this is the anniversary of D-Day. I know you've had a chance to spend some time with our veterans over the last few days visiting Washington. Thoughts on where we are 74 years after the D-Day invasion?
Yeah, my dad was in World War II in Germany. He got there after D-Day, but it was the greatest generation, no question about it. One fellow I met today is 100 years old. He was in the original North African invasion, the first time we went on offense in World War II in Europe, and was there at the end when the Germans surrendered, survived it all, and he's 100 years old. These were the greatest generation, no question about it.
Senator McConnell, it's always great to see you. Thanks so much for giving us some time today.
Thank you, Laura.
And in just a minute, how Obama officials looked lawmakers in the eyes and lied about the Iran deal. The one